Hello, hello. All right, can you guys hear me now? Am I coming in finally? Does this microphone finally work? I really hope so, because I don't want this to be any trouble at all whatsoever. So, but please let me know if you guys can hear me in the comments right now. That will greatly assist me in knowing if we're good or not. So I just left and rejoined. Hopefully that everything is in working order now. No one tells me. I'm going to go check the stream myself. Okay, good. Is my volume good? Is it low? Is there any problems with it? Let's check it out. Let's see. Okay, cool. We are up and running. Normal levels. We are back. Welcome to Red Top Report. I apologize. I have no idea what went on. I just left and rejoined. It must have been some kind of glitch on StreamYard. I'm not sure what was going on, but that's not okay. No more of that. We're gonna try this again now. And other thing that we're gonna need up there. And now there's like stuff missing. Like there we go. And I gotta put my Red Top banner back up now. Make everything look nice and snazzy. Like what just happened? I don't even know what just happened. That's so crazy. We're talking about the Pope. We're talking about the Pope today. We're talking about the Pope's recent comments. And, typically I'm very charitable towards the Pope. Typically I am very defensive of papal statements, but I only defend them because I truly believe that they're right. And I have the highest level of charitability, I guess, when analyzing papal documents and analyzing papal statements, because he is the Holy Father. I believe that Pope Francis is the Holy Father, and as the Holy Father, I owe him just as much respect as I do my own biological father, if not more. Especially as a lay person and an adult, I owe him more respect, even than that. So I want to start our analysis today of his recent comments regarding all religions being a gift from God. These are very, very interesting statements, very unexpected statements. And yes, some of them are taken out of context. We're going to go through all of this stuff. So don't worry. I have a whole presentation lined up to outline everything that all the problems that I have with what Pope Francis has said as of recently, and all of the problems that I have with the media who falsely spun his words to make him say something that he actually wasn't saying. At least that's what I hear. I've heard other stories too. I'll be going into those as well. But basically, he said that all religions are a gift from God in his most recent comments. So let's go into his statements. But before that, I really need to tell you guys something. I really need you guys to consider this for just a moment. Consider becoming a Red Top Report premium subscriber. And let me tell you just real quick how you guys can do that. And now I have to redo all of my things, so let me just get that up. Boom and boom. There we are, right there. We'll go this direction. This is Red Top Report Premium. You can subscribe to Red Top Report Premium very, 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 very easily. You can just go to subscribestar.com, throw Joe Enders or Red Top Report in the description. We will come up and you can become a subscriber. You can be a $5 a month subscriber. But if you want access to premium content, highly recommend going with the $10 option. For $25 a month, you can become a Giga Chatter. And yeah, we might put you in a group chat with me. I mean, I think that would be fun. I have tons of friends in these things. They're a ton of fun, and it would be cool to have you guys in there. Obviously, if you're a loser, like I kind of have the choice to say get out, but you get what I mean. And obviously, we have our legacy options. You can go all the way up to $250 a month. I mean, like there's some crazy people out there with lots of money. I'm happy to take it if you're willing to give it. That said, getting back to Pope Francis and his recent comments, let's hit up our slide show that I have put together for this. So Pope Francis at the Med 24 meeting on September 17th, 2024 wrote this. He says, "I invite you to learn together to discern the signs of the times. Contemplate the difference of your traditions like a richness God wants to be." So I'm highlighting everything in red that is very problematic and frankly just it's almost false. Um, Describing it like a richness is just completely incorrect. The differences in the traditions are not rich, as there is only one truth, and that one truth is the Catholic faith. It's the only completely true tradition. All the other ones contain errors. This is a bad statement. Now, I want to point out that this is also not a magisterial statement. If this was a magisterial statement, that would come with far, far, far more weight. If we're being, it would come with far more weight. There'd be moral teaching behind it. And I do believe that Pope Francis is the Pope. I do believe that his magisterial teachings are all binding, meaning that you have to follow them. I believe that to be true of all things. But I want to kind of start with a disclaimer as we look at this statement. I read papal documents with a process called the hermeneutic of continuity. And the hermeneutic of continuity is basically the idea that the papacy, the office of the Pope, has a charism from the Holy Spirit, and the people who occupy that office operate within the confines of that charism. That is, I think our camera just flashed out. Wow, I'm having a bad technology day. Anyways, we're back. Through that charism, they operate in continuity with all the other past ordinary magisterium and extraordinary magisterium of the church and the teachings of it. So this is not any of those things. When it comes to magisterial weight, he's at a meeting, he's making off the cuff remarks, he's being asked questions. I mean, this is like, him saying, I ordered a pepperoni pizza, when he actually ordered a sausage pizza, and saying that he just forgot and thought that he ordered pepperoni pizza. That's actually just false. He ordered a sausage pizza, not a pepperoni pizza. He just misremembered. So the Pope can do that. He can do these types of things. That's something that he has full authority to do. Full authority to do and make errors with. This would be one of those remarks. It's just not true. The difference in your traditions are not a richness. The difference in your traditions, can be beneficial to seeking the truth, but there's not it's those differences. There's error involved in those. Somebody is erroneous. That needs to be fleshed out. That needs to be said more. And this is a huge problem that we've had with Pope Francis for the longest time. Anyways, he goes on to say, unity is not uniformity, and diversity of your cultural and religious identities is a gift of God. Now, this is a problem. There's lots of magisterial teaching that says that there the good things in other religions, meaning things that Catholics would agree with, basically, those things are still good because they are true, and all the truth flows from God. I am the way, the truth, and the light. But to say that they are and to say that God wills, he's also said in the past, and other teachings have said that God wills religious diversity, religious pluralism. I think might be the word that's used. I can't remember which, but the idea here is that religious pluralism is willed by God, but it's willed passively, meaning that he permits the pluralism of religions to help us make the active choice ourselves, using our wills to pick Catholicism because it is the most complete truth. That's the big issue here. Now, I want everybody to think about this for a moment. Pope Francis here is elevating it. He's saying, no, it's a gift from God, meaning that he actively willed it. He took his active will. He says, I want there to be many religions, meaning somehow that God wanted people to believe in erroneous teachings and reject the Catholic Church, the church he gave us, all the teachings, everything, all that history. He willed the rejection. People, there to be traditions that reject those things somehow because Why? That is not what the church teaches. That is incorrect. Your cultural identities can be a gift from God. That's absolutely sure. I mean, obviously, there's some cultural identities. Like if your cultural identity is ancient Aztec and you're cutting people's hearts off at the top of a Mayan pyramid, that's not a gift from God. All right, that's a gift from someone else. You don't really want to go that route. So I mean, even in cultural context, that's not necessarily true. Did God permit the Mayans to exist and cut people's hearts out and engage in human sacrifice? I mean, yeah, he did. Obviously, they did it. He permitted it. That was his passive will. The passive will meaning he doesn't will it, but allows it to happen. The active will meaning that he took a part in making that thing happen. Like, for example, procreation is God using his active will. He actively wills a new life in that instance. And you participate in that act of God's will, which is why you are a procreator, not a creator. God is the creator. So that's the idea of active will and passive will, which is permissive will is a way that I like to say it. Now so what Pope Francis is saying here is that your cultural and religious identities is a gift of God. Well, if God's giving you something as a gift, he has to actively will it. That's not in what sense can something that you're permitting to happen that you don't want, that you would otherwise not desire to happen, be a gift? It's like giving somebody. It's like giving. Let me give you guys a good analogy for this. It's like giving it's like giving somebody a birthday present and them opening up and there's a giant steaming turd in it. You're like, why did you give this to me? This thing is disgusting. And nobody wants it. Why would God actively do that to you? Why would he give you a gift of a turd in a box? He can permit somebody to give you a turd in a box, but why would God give you a turd in a box? So this is just wrong. Your cultural and religious identities, or your religious identities being a gift from God, it's incorrect. It's incorrect. And he goes on to say, unity in diversity. Let mutual esteem grow among you following the witness of your forefathers. Okay. So mutual esteem is a good thing. You guys want to have mutual respect for the people that you're talking to. And in this specific Med 24 meeting, the context is interfaith dialogue. It's how you talk to people. It's what you do when you're going out to convert people. And there is a good way. There is a good way to do this, and there is a bad way to do this. And this is just doubling down on a comment that he had made earlier, which we'll put up, which there was a huge controversy about. And it's strange that he said this after saying what he said beforehand, because this would reinforce the error. And, these off the cuff remarks, it's just like, you have to phrase things better when you're the chief evangelist of the church, it is incumbent upon you as the Holy Father to do that. And you can't be unclear like this. You can't be confusing like this. And personally, I don't believe that the Pope means that. And I'll go into that in a little while, why I know this to be true. But your cultural and religious identity is not a gift from God. So let's go to his next statement. These are his recent comments. He was at a interreligious meeting in Singapore, and he had said this: if we start to fight amongst ourselves and saying, my religion is more important than yours, my religion is true, yours is not. I mean, if you're a Catholic saying these things, you are correct. Like, it would be wrong to say that it's incorrect that the Catholic religion is infinitely more important than Islam or Judaism. My religion is infinitely truer than Islam or Judaism. Like, there's no running away from that. That is true. And he says, where will that lead us? Respond, the Pope says. And a young person answers, destruction. And he says, that is correct. Now, I kind of want to defend the Pope here, because though those are both true statements, the context of the remarks is correct. When you are dialoguing with somebody, when you are going out to evangelize a person, when you're going out to try to convince somebody that Catholicism is true, I can tell you that walking up to a Muslim or a Jew and saying, my religion is more important than yours, my religion is true and yours is not. I mean, if you lead with that, it's going to destroy the dialogue. So that's what he means by it's going to lead us to destruction. We're going to be divided. We're going to be unable to have the difficult conversations that we need to have. But one thing that you should consider is that, again, the media is going to take this out of context. And the Pope by now should probably know that. He should know that the media is going to take his comments out of context, publish them in a way that makes it seem like he's saying that Catholics are actually not morally permitted to say my religion is true and yours is not, or that my religion is supreme. Actually, you can totally say that. In fact, I think in online discourse where it really is just a battle of wills and not necessarily a battle of intellects, you can totally say it. And it can sometimes be more beneficial because at the end of the day, the people on social media are usually on there looking for acceptance and to be part of a group. And a great foot in the door to start evangelizing a person might be to show that you're the mightiest and most powerful. And Catholicism is the mightiest and the most powerful religion because it is founded by God incarnate Jesus Christ. That's Catholicism. That's who founded our church, is Jesus Christ. So anyways, he goes on to say, all religions, and by the way, this is the original translation. He had a cardinal with him that was translating. There was a translation from Italian that was used as well. I believe that this is the translation from Italian, not the one from the translator at the event. There's a bunch of different translations. But he says, all religions are a path to reach God. Kind of like what does that mean? What do you mean by they're all a path to reach God? If you follow Islam to the very end, your destination is hell. If you follow Judaism to the very end, which is the path, that's a path. You walk on a path to its destination. You follow a path all the way to the end, your destination is hell. If you follow Catholicism, that's a path, the path of Catholicism. And you ride it all the way to the end. You walk that path right to the very end because you're a good boy. You're a good boy or you're a good girl if there's any women watching this. If there are, you should watch a different show. You're going to end up in heaven. Yeah, you're going to end up in heaven if you follow the Catholic path. So clearly, these paths have different destinations. And is it true that being part of a religion can put you on the path to recognizing actual true religion, which is Catholicism? Absolutely. And that's probably what he means here. But this is the original translation. So I'm just going through the errors of the original translation. The Vatican released a revised, I think it was the Vatican that released a revised translation, which is below that. And we'll show you how they've now edited it. But anyways, all religions are a path to God. They are, I make a comparison like different languages. No, that's wrong too. Different idioms to get there. But God is God for everybody. True. God is definitely the God of all mankind. God is the God of all. Whether they accept him or not is another story. But language is a very, very confusing analogy here. They're like different languages. Like it's like I'm saying that Jesus Christ is the way, the truth, and the light in English, or I'm saying Jesus Christ is the way, the truth, and the light in Swahili, or Spanish or French. No, they're saying different things. They're saying erroneous things. And they should be expressed as erroneous things. But here they're not. They're not expressed as erroneous things. In fact, he's saying their languages. So I think that this is him just being off the cuff, making I've made tons of bad analogies in my life. I'm sure the Holy Father just made a bad analogy here. It's not like languages. It's more like, different identities. If you identify with Islam, you'll be in hell. If you identify with Judaism, you'll wind up in hell. And obviously, I understand Vatican II and the doctrine of invincible ignorance, somebody who could never know about the faith or had no access to the gospel of Jesus Christ. They will be judged by their, merit. They will be judged by the merits and their in accordance with the natural law, whatever. All that blah, 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 blah. I know. But generally speaking, this is the idea. If you follow Judaism or Islam, you wind up in hell. It is not a different language. It is a different identity. You either identify with Christ or you do not identify with Christ. And by Christ, I mean Christ and his church. It's very, very, very different from a language. He goes on to say, some are Sikh, some are Muslim, some are Hindu, some are Christian, but they are different paths. I mean, that's right. They are definitely different paths. But again, they lead to different places, which maybe he's thinking that in the back of his mind. I don't know. But it's very confusing. And as the chief evangelist of the church, he should not be confusing people that he's trying to evangelize. And more importantly, he can't be scandalizing and confusing the faithful. So I think that this was also a mistake. But here's the Revised Translation, which I think might be... I think the Revised Translation is not an exact translation, which makes me believe that the Revised Translation is more likely to be a correction by the Vatican saying, well, this is what he meant to say. And I'm sure that this would not have been published without at least some notification from Pope Francis himself. So maybe this is Pope Francis's way of saying, all right, this is what I meant. This was not said right. This is what I mean by this. This is the Revised Translation of his remarks. You start arguing, my religion is more important than yours, or mine is the true one. Yours is not true. Where does this lead? Somebody answer. A young person answers, destruction. That is correct. And in the context, as we went over before, in the context of dialogue, yes, that's absolutely right. That is a correct statement. You do not lead with that. That is not the way you evangelize somebody. You approach somebody of another religion as a friend who you want to be your brother or sister. You love this person. You don't treat them like garbage. And I think that Pope Francis is very right in that analogy. Now, if you took it out of context, when you take it out of context and say, just the statements, are these statements true or false? He says, my religion is more important than yours. Well, in the case of Catholicism, yes, it is. Mine is the true one. Yours is not true. If I'm a Catholic talking to a member of any other religion, again, true statement. However, in the context of trying to have productive dialogue, it is a destructive way to begin it. Here we go. The Vatican should specify it's a correction of what the Pope meant rather than passing it off as a retranslation. It makes the Vatican look like liars. Yeah, I agree with you. I think that it should probably have been phrased. This is what he meant to say. That's what should have come out. This is what he meant to say. So anyways, let's go in. There's the wrong parts in the original translation, which is probably an accurate translation. From what I understand, I might be wrong, but this is all happening very quickly. This is what it seems like to me. And, hold on. Trad Tards is checking in. I was a guest on their show the other day, guys. You should totally go give them a subscribe. We love the Trad Tards. They're very, very funny. They need to abandon the SSPX, and I told them that on the show, and it's super fun. I'm just kidding. It's just my buddy. But let's go. Welcome to the stream. So anyways, this is the Revised Translation. He goes on to say, after saying that it is correct that it's destructive to dialogue to talk this way. Religions, and this is where it changes. You go up there, all religions are a path to God, original translation. Revised Translation, religions are seen as paths trying to reach God. Well, that's correct. You think a Muslim doesn't think that their faith is what is going on? They don't think that that's a path to heaven? Of course they do. They wouldn't. If they don't, what are they doing? What religion do they believe in, right? No. Yeah, obviously they are seen as paths trying to reach God. Yeah, they are seen that way. And he says, and then the Pope goes on, I will use analogy. They are like different languages that express the divine, not paths to reach God. They are like languages that it says right up here. There is only one God, and our religions are languages, paths to reach God. Oh, I'm sorry. Like different languages, different idioms to get there, but God is God for everybody. Well, here he says they are like different languages that express the divine. Again, I still don't like that. That's not a good analogy. They are like different identities. Who you are, what your core spirituality is. That's a better analogy than languages that express the divine. That's what they are seen as, but they are not objectively like languages. They are objectively not like languages. So again, even in the correction, it's still kind of incorrect. But God is for everyone, and therefore we are all God's children. No problems there. 100% agree with the Pope. And then he says, but my God is more important than yours. Is this true? There is only one God, and religions are like languages that try to express ways to approach God. That is also correct. They do try. Judaism tries to express God. Islam tries to express God, but do so what? They do so erroneously. They do so falsely. Now here's the other version, the old version. And since God is the God of everyone, we are all children of God, but my God is more important than yours. Is this true? There is only one God, and our religions are languages, paths to reach God, that try to express ways to approach God versus, and our religions are languages, paths to reach God. Very, very different statements. So the retranslation, it does seem to me as though it's a correction. Again, I can't answer that definitively on whether it actually is them making a correction. And if it is, you should have called it a correction. I mean, dude, everybody makes mistakes. We love Pope Francis. I'm not a Pope denier. I've Pope-splained on many occasions. I've been accused of being a Pope-splainer on plenty of occasions. It's like, it's good. It's okay. You thought you ordered a sausage pizza, but you told them pepperoni. It's not a big deal. It's not big. It's not big. It's not a big deal. It should just be listed as a very simple correction. And this is the problem. Nowhere in any of these statements, even if you take all of this at face value, and this is why I'm criticizing the Holy Father on this strategy that he's used. It's because what this is so confusing. Nowhere in there do you say that these faiths are erroneous. Why aren't you telling us that these are in error? This is the type of thing that's very harmful to dialogue when you're not honest with people. You have to tell them, we as Catholics believe that your religion is incorrect, but we want you to accept the truth because we love you. I don't want to go up to people and say you suck, or I don't want to go up and say, my religion is true, yours is not. I want to say that I don't agree with what your religion says, and I love you, and that's why I want to tell you what I know through revelation to be the truth. That's a good thing. That's a loving way to approach it. That's a very dialogue-driven approach that can really help people come to the faith. And as the chief evangelist, you would think that the Pope agrees with us on this. And he probably does. He probably does agree on a lot of this stuff. It's the way that he's phrasing it that is very confusing. And some people, I don't know if I do or not, think that he intentionally phrases things in vague ways because he doesn't want to offend the people that he's talking to. And there's a certain level of charity you can have in your voice and prudence you can have in your words, in your word choice, that is necessary for successful dialogue. However, I don't think that we should be dishonest about what we believe or say something so broad that it can be construed as confusing. That's not helpful to the church. That's not helpful for evangelization. In fact, it could be harmful and could make people think that our religion truly just, it stands for nothing. It's just not, it's just this pantheistic weirdness. And I've heard a lot of people that have thought that about Catholicism and not joined Catholicism specifically because they thought that way based on off-the-cuff comments like this that have been misconstrued. And that's a sin called scandal. You shouldn't be scandalizing people. Guys, yeah, the Pope can sin. He's not Jesus. He's not Our Lady. You know what I mean? He's a fallible human being. He can make mistakes. It's just his charism and it's the charism that he was given by the Holy Spirit by virtue of his office that prevents him from officially teaching heresy. He can't do that. He doesn't do that. So that's those comments. And the reason I say that this doesn't make any sense and that I don't think he meant it that way is because it contradicts his own magisterium. I picked up this screenshot from the Michael Lofton stream. What up, Michael Lofton? Appreciate the screenshot. I think that you make a very good case in your video as well for a lot of the problems. I'm being a little bit harder on Pope Francis than you were, I think. But all in all, I agree with this. Why is he contradicting himself? Here he is. His homily in Casa Santa Marta, November 4th, 2016. He says, there is no other way. Jesus is the door. It is a door that does not deceive. It is a door that does not make us do wrong. Whoever enters through Jesus will be saved. He will go in and out and find pasture. 2, in a general audience on May 15th, 2013, he says, Jesus is the only way to heaven. To know him and to follow him is to walk on the way of salvation. Only way. Not Islam. Those other ways aren't paths to heaven. Those aren't paths to heaven. That's literally what he's saying here. If something is the only way, that means that's the street that gets you there, and no other streets do. No other paths do. So he's contradicting. He appears to be contradicting himself when he says that, and that's where the confusion comes in. Evangelii Gaudium. I'm not going to try to pronounce it right. Don't get mad at me. This is from 2013. Paragraph 14, he says, no one is saved by his or her own efforts or works. Rather, we are saved by the grace of God through faith in Jesus Christ. Another reaffirmation. So I think Pope Francis was trying to be a little too nice to the people of other religions, didn't want to turn them away by telling them that they were wrong, and tried to make these vague, very vague statements that were just, they just didn't land. They just didn't land. They're wrong. And he's done this consistently throughout his papacy. And it's been a consistent criticism that I've had with the way that he's gone about dialogue. And Trent Horn did a video on this as well. You guys should check that one out too. Both of those videos were very well done, very well critiqued, and they go into quite a bit of the stuff that I'm going into, but I'm going to go into a little bit more. A lot of people, and this is why I think that this is so irresponsible. It's so irresponsible because right now we're living in a society, specifically in the West, and he wasn't speaking in the West in all due charity. And Med 24 he was, which again, why there? But there's comments in Singapore, like, I get it. Okay. There's a lot of religious strife. There's a lot of religious divisions, and, trying to mend some of those scars can be helpful. But Jesus is not this unifier. Jesus is a divider. He says that very clearly in Scripture. He said he came to turn father against son in some instances. This is the type of dialogue that he was engaged in. But he didn't want families to be broken. He wanted all families to accept him. That was the point. So, with Pope Francis contradicting himself on this, he has aided and abetted the media in spinning this to make them think Catholics believe this. And there's already this giant perception that the Catholic Church thinks that freedom of religion is a good thing. I've talked to many Catholics about it. I was in a recent space with Bree Dale and another woman. I think it was a Jewish woman that was running the space. Her name was Chaya. Didn't like her very much. She was mean to me. That's okay. They all keep saying that, religious pluralism. Vatican II talks about religious pluralism. Well, I'm going to show you guys Lumen Gentium. I'm going to show you exactly what Lumen Gentium says about freedom of religion, and I'm going to help you guys understand what it actually means. So this is Lumen Gentium 36. It says, because of the very economy of salvation, the faithful should learn how to distinguish carefully between those rights and duties which are theirs as members of the church, and those which they have as members of human society. Let them strive to reconcile the two, remembering that in every temporal affair they must be guided by a Christian conscience, since even in secular business there is no human activity, meaning none, which can be withdrawn from God's dominion. Now, here's the bottom part of this claim, and this is what everybody claims, is it reaffirmation that the church accepts on a moral level that freedom of religion is a good thing. But that ominous doctrine which attempts to build a society with no regard whatever for religion, and which attacks and destroys the religious liberty of its citizens, is rightly to be rejected. Destroys the religious liberty of its citizens is rightly to be rejected. Everybody likes to read that part, but they don't like to read the beginning part. That ominous doctrine which attempts to build a society with no regard whatever for religion, meaning a society without religion, a secular society. But let's go look above, and let's go read what Lumen Gentium 36 says above here. Every temporal affair, they must be guided by a Christian conscience, since even in secular business, there is no human activity which can be withdrawn from God's dominion. Now let's ask ourselves a very, very, very simple question. Does this apply to government officials? Does this apply to people in office, parts of government departments? Yes, it does. You need to operate your decision-making based upon a Christian conscience, which means you should be pushing for Christian laws, the social kingship of Christ, and the promotion of the teachings of Jesus. There's no getting away from that. Freedom of religion is only a good thing. Toleration of other religions is only a good thing if you are living in a secular society with no regard for religion. And why is that? Because it can be turned around to abuse other Catholics, prevent them from freely practicing their religion. So in that sense, in this time specifically, it is a proper time to support freedom of religion, because if we didn't, Catholics would be getting the short end of the stick. However, we're living in medieval Christendom. Let's go back in time. We're living in medieval Christendom. St. Thomas Aquinas is writing the Summa. We're in a golden age of philosophy. The Gothic architecture is, making leaps and bounds. Everything's beautiful. You get lots of vacation days as a medieval peasant because we have feasts. Lots of time off. In that society, tolerating other religions would be wrong. And I can look to the Fourth Lateran Council, which demonstrates just how intolerant they actually were. And they were so intolerant that they said that Jews and Muslims living under Christendom should have to have identifying markers on them. And what does that do? That otherizes them. That would be considered a religious persecution today. But is it? Is it, if we're living in a Christian society and demand conformity to the truth within our civilization? No. That's a good thing. It's good that other religions aren't tolerated. It's good that we are forcing people to conform to the truth. It's good that, I shouldn't say we're forcing people to conform to the truth. I should say we're forcing people to either conform to the truth or be otherized in society because they choose error over truth. Now think about that for a second. Think about what that entails. And again, this is how you look at it. This is what the church taught. This is an ecumenical, magisterial teaching of the church. This is from a council. But people say, well, yes, but this was under Christendom. Today we live in a religiously pluralistic society. Sure. But it doesn't mean that religious intolerance wasn't a good thing to do back then. It was a good thing to do. Was the expulsion of the Jews from several countries that the Catholic Church said that they supported? That Thomas Aquinas said that, all the Jews that made their money from usury, that should be returned to the people that they took it from. All these different comments. Are those all, considered antithetical to Catholicism today? Or were those not good things to teach, good things to say, good things to do? It's all contextual in time. You're on a timeline. You're on a timeline here, right? You have Christendom, religious intolerance good. Secular society with no regard to religion. Bad. It's really simple. And we know this to be true. We believe in the social kingship of Christ. And not only are we to try our best to, in every temporal affair, guide ourselves with our Christian consciences, since even in secular business, there is no human activity which can be withdrawn from God's dominion, as Lumen Gentium 36 says. What are we doing by doing that? We are moving ourselves back towards Christendom. We're moving ourselves back towards Christendom. We're moving ourselves into a position where we can be intolerant again of other religions. We want to get back there. We want the conformity to Christ. We want the social kingship of Christ. And if you don't believe me that the church doesn't teach this and doesn't validate exactly what Lumen Gentium is saying, check out some quotes from the popes in the past. Freedom of religion, not Catholic. It's not Catholic. It is a situational good, not a moral, universal good. It has never taught that. Right here, it would be a grave error, on the other hand, to say that Christ has no authority whatever in civil, probably supposed to say whatsoever, whatever in civil affairs, since by virtue of the absolute empire over all creatures committed to him by the Father, all things are in his power. This is from Quas Primas by Pope Pius XI. This was in, I believe, 1925. Pope Leo XIII. We love Pope Leo XIII. He was a big factor in our Unalienable Rights series, which you guys should totally check out. $10 a month on Subscribestar. You can watch the whole thing. His empire includes not only Catholic nations. And remember, we're talking about empire up here. Empire over all things, over all creatures. His empire includes not only Catholic nations, not only baptized persons who, though of right belonging to the church, have been led astray by error or have been cut off from her by schism, but also all those who are outside the Christian faith, meaning Jews, Muslims, and Hindus, and Buddhists, and all of them are outside the Christian faith, so that truly the whole of mankind is subject to the power of Christ. You're telling me that that's not the social kingship of Christ? Come on, guys. It's very clear. The church is very clear. Pope Leo XIII, very clearly, Annum Sacrum. Check it out yourselves. You don't have to take my word for it. I'm just quoting him here. And this was in 1899. Let's move to Unum Sanctum by Pope Boniface the Eighth, I believe. Is that the third? Is that, yeah, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, don't get mad at me over the Roman numerals, guys. Come on. Okay. So this is Unum Sanctum. This is from the 1300s. The 1300s. We're back in medieval Europe here. Certainly, the one who denies that the temporal sword is in the power of Peter has not listened well to the word of the Lord commanding, put up thy sword into thy scabbard. Matthew 26, verse 52. Therefore, both are in the power of the church, namely the spiritual sword and the material. But indeed, the latter is to be exercised on behalf of the church, and truly the former is to be exercised by the church. The former is of the priest, the latter is by the hand of kings and soldiers, but at the will and sufferance of the priest. So the temporal power of the sword is in the power of Peter, Catholic Church, the Pope. The spiritual sword and the material. The latter is to be exercised. The spiritual sword, guys, or the material, I'm sorry. The spiritual sword is the Catholic Church. It's the papacy. It's the see of St. Peter. The spiritual sword and the material. The material is the temporal. It's the kingdoms. It's the leaders. It's the governments. The latter is to be exercised on behalf of the church. on behalf of the church. You should be employing the church's teachings. The latter is by the hand of kings and soldiers, by governments and militaries. What? What? Does that sound like what Pope Francis was saying? Not at all. But it should, because that is what the church teaches. It's very linear. The latter is by the hands of kings and soldiers. The latter is to be exercised on behalf of the church. I should be trying to make America return to Christendom on behalf of the church, the sword, the spiritual sword of truth, through the papacy, through the Catholic Church. Freedom of religion is not a universal Catholic truth. And if you don't, let's go back to Lumen Gentium. Every temporal affair must be guided by a Christian conscience, since even in secular business, there is no human activity. Secular business includes government business. They don't mean like, typing on calculators. They don't mean doing your they don't mean doing your taxes. They mean secular business, the business of secularness. There is no human activity which can be withdrawn from God's dominion. He rules over all. What does Quas Prima say? It would be a grave error to say that Christ has no authority whatsoever in civil affairs. He has absolute empire over all creatures. His empire includes not only Catholic nations, Pope Leo XIII, but also all those who are outside the Christian faith. Oh yeah, guys. You should all, as Catholics, be pushing for the restoration of Christendom and the intolerance of false religions, because they are paths that lead to hell. They are paths that lead to hell. There is only but one way to the Father, through his Son. Now, I want everybody to think about this. I want everybody to think about this and pray about this over the future. And obviously pray for Pope Francis. I am angered by the comments. I am very upset by the comments, and I'm very worried about the effects that these comments are going to wind up having over on the church, on Catholics. How many people are going to, be, genuinely concerned, genuinely worried about what's to come for these Catholics who take these comments out of context, these confusing comments out of context, and perhaps do something evil. We don't want that to happen, guys. We don't believe in people. We don't want anybody to go to hell. The reality that we're seeing right now is it's something that's yes, it's sad. Yes, it's angering. Yes, it's confusing. But it's also a really good opportunity to remind ourselves how serious the job of being the Pope is, and how hard it is, and how just a tiny little comment, a tiny little bad analogy can hurt millions of people, billions of people, in the case of the Catholic faith. That's a scary thing. And the Pope has a great burden on his shoulders. He has to carry the weight of all of those souls, the responsibility for all those souls and their salvation on his back. Being the Pope is probably the most difficult job in the world, because you'll be held to account for every soul you fail to some degree. And that's why we need to be praying for Pope Francis now more than ever. We need to love Pope Francis. We need to validate his office. We need to submit to the chair of St. Peter as good lay Catholics. And I give my full submission to that, and you should too, to his ordinary and extraordinary magisterium. This is what it is. We should be reading this with a hermeneutic of continuity to the best of our ability, not the comments that he made, but the comments that he made in the past, his magisterial comments. Because these off-the-cuff remarks, honestly, if he can't make responsible remarks, then there's absolutely no reason that he should be doing these interviews. Don't do the interviews if you're going to say things that scandalize Catholics, that scandalize people of other faiths, make them think that their tradition is going to somehow get them to heaven when it won't. It's always dangerous. It's a very, very dangerous game. And again, I think that he had bad analogies in there. I think that him doubling down was the worst mistake. He should have retracted it and corrected it and included the facts that there are errors in this. We've seen him do these things in the past with them, even some of his magisterial teachings. Like, they're true. I don't reject them. I don't reject Amoris Laetitia. I just wish there was more in there talking about how evil divorce was and how in most cases you can't receive communion, despite there being one case, or despite there being a potential case where somebody could receive it. Why not talk about how you shouldn't, if you're divorced, go up and receive communion, and if you're divorced and remarried, I should say, should go up and receive Holy Communion because you're in a state of mortal sin. You're committing adultery. Even though there is a certain case that can exist where it's possible where somebody could go up in that situation due to it's very hard to explain. But again, it comes off as confusing. It comes off as divorced people can receive communion, and that's not the case 99.9% of the time. And that's another example. Confusion. We really implore the Holy Father. I love the Holy Father, Pope Francis. You're my spiritual father. You're the leader. You're the leader of the church. I really hope you hear the sincerity that I have in my voice here, because I don't want you to think that I don't respect your authority or anything along those lines. It is only with love and charity that I tell you that my friends are confused. My brothers and sisters are confused. Holy Father, you are the head of this household, and you've confused my siblings. And if I have to be, the big brother that speaks on their behalf and tells you that, I will, and I will do it here. And he's probably not going to see this, but if he does, I'm praying for you. I love you. And that's just the gist of this entire thing. We need to be approaching the Pope with love. We need to be reading his magisterium in continuity with other teachings of the past. We need to be understanding enough of our faith. It's incumbent upon us to understand our faith enough to be able to understand when an off-the-cuff remark is incorrect, so that when the media just runs with it, runs heresy, falsehood, and tries to put it in our Holy Father's mouth, we can be ready to call it out and defend it in accordance with the Holy Catholic Church, defend the integrity of the papacy, defend the integrity of our Holy Father. That's our job as Catholics too. And in the meantime, we need to be evangelizing all nations and doing exactly as Pope Francis tells us to do when he says to have respectful dialogue with people. And I mean in person. I mean interpersonal. Here's somebody right here. I was won over by love from Catholics charitably explaining the faith to me, not by insults against my existing beliefs. Is that not the core? Are we not inviting people to be adopted into our great, beautiful, true, light-filled family? Pope Francis is right. We need to be nice to people, and we need to explain things to them in a charitable way, in a prudent way. And though I may not agree with every instance, in general, these conversion discussions should be private. They should be personal. They should be emotional. It is so incumbent upon you to make friends with people who are of other faiths, Because you could be the mechanism by which God turns their heart to Christ. Don't you dare deny God the ability to work through you. Don't you dare. But the way to do it is not by saying that every other religion is a path to God. They are paths to hell. And I only say that because I love people of other religions. I don't want them in hell. I want them in heaven. And you have to, if you're a Catholic, you have to want that too. Call me an Islamophobe. Call me an anti-Semite. Call me whatever you want. You will never stop me. Stop God working through me. That should be your attitude. You should think that about yourself. How dare anybody get in the way of God working through me? Now, with that said, guys, I think we're probably going to wrap up the stream here. But before we do that, obviously, if you guys have any questions, feel free to throw them in the chat right now. I will put them up and answer them to the best of my ability. Obviously, I'm not going to have the answer to every question you guys ask, but go ahead, throw them in the chat now. Throw them in the chat now, and I'll do my best to answer them. It's just so it was very disappointing to know that the Pope had these comments. You know, that was very sad. Here's one. Was Pope Francis's statement simply an error or also a heresy? What is the difference? So there's two types of heresy. There's material heresy and there's formal heresy. A formal heresy is when the church declares you a heretic, right? You have committed a heresy. The church has found in a some form of a church tribunal that you are guilty of the crime, the episcopal crime, or the I don't know if the word's episcopal, but the church crime of heresy, and that requires obstinate belief in that heresy, no matter what, against all odds. You have said the Catholic Church is wrong on something that is true and a teaching, and you have rejected it. That's the threshold. A material heresy is when you say something that is heretical, but you don't even mean it or know it, or it's unintentional. So they're not at all the same things. So if that helps, clears it up a little bit. And I would argue that Pope Francis's statement could be construed as a heresy, but to say that all religions are, what was it? All religions are a gift from God. Yeah, that would be heretical. That would be materially heretical. But again, it's probably not what he intended to say. I don't believe that it is, because it would contradict what he said officially in the past. Using his papal authority. So it would be a material heresy, which is an error, and it would not be something that goes to the level of a formal heresy, unless he actually doubled down before a true church tribunal and said, no, the church is wrong. So yeah, good luck with that one. All right, what's our next question here? He's ambiguous. Oh wait, I'm sorry, that is not a question, is it? Is it? He's ambiguous because he rejects the Christ's command to let your yes be yes and your no be no. I don't understand that. I don't understand that question fully, to be honest with you. Maybe there's a, I'm trying to think, maybe there's a let your yes be yes and your no be no. What's the context? If that's what I guess that's what I'd want to know. Also, your name is hilarious. Let's see. It depends on the person. We have to build personal relationships to figure that out. But I am the person who needs to hear things straight up, no wishy-washy lingoisms. Yeah, I mean, this goes back to your strategies, having a diversity of strategies in how you evangelize people. You need to know people. You need to be friendly with people at first, so you can form a relationship. And then when you form a relationship, you can get the brass tacks on what things actually mean and what things actually, if you're a person that likes to be direct, I mean, I can tell you straight up that I'm a Catholic. I love you. I want you to go to heaven, and that Jesus Christ is the only way. And that's the end of the discussion. Jesus is very clear in the New Testament. If you subscribe to a religion that is not Christianity, you are wrong. You are gravely wrong. That's a straightforward approach, right? But there are. But if there's somebody who is not even receptive yet to hearing the gospel, you can kind of, and there's levels even to that too. If there's somebody who refuses to be receptive to the gospel and then moves further to being hostile towards the gospel, well then, you run into a big problem. What do you do in this situation? Well, there's a couple options. You try to open up that person to the gospel. If that fails, you try to bring other people together with you to bring that person closer to the gospel. If they refuse, if it is so clear, their obstinance is so clear, their pride is so blinding to them, they so utterly refuse the gospel for illegitimate reasons, just basically out of a hatred of the faith, like we see with a lot of these secularists, a lot of these horrible people that legitimately wish the destruction of the church. Well, there's only one medicine to pride, and that's humility. You must defeat them, right? The gloves come off and you fight them. Now, I mean, obviously, verbal debate, verbal warfare, right? No punches pulled. You denounce them. You denounce the heretic, right? You denounce the heretic. In Christendom, they'd tie him to a stick and light him on fire. But you know what I mean. You know what I mean. Yeah. You don't put up with that. You defeat them. You humiliate them in battle. And you let them know that you cannot win. And maybe then in that moment of humility, suddenly their pride, their hardened heart will crack open, and there'll be a little chink in the armor that you can sneak in and bring the gospel to them with. That's also true. That was a good question. That's a good question. In the beginning of my journey, I was impressed by Father Karapi, who was pretty hard-hitting. I described it as being hit over the head with truth bombs. That's just me. I know others who need a more silk glove approach, but true charity is wanting everybody to go to heaven. Yeah, that's right. And the heart of love is charity. It's a chief virtue. It's a chief virtue. Like there's no other way to look at it. All right. Any other questions, guys? I'm gonna jump off. I got a pork chop waiting for me upstairs that my wife made for me. It's gonna be really good. I really want to go eat it. So, if there's nothing else, I'll say one more thing. Again, if you guys want to support Red Top Report, if you want to support the show, be sure, guys, you have to check us out on Subscribestar. Go to the Subscribestar. For $10 a month, you'll have access to my entire Unalienable Rights series. You can subscribe for $5 a month if you just want to support me. You don't have the money yet. But if you want the premium content, the Unalienable Rights series, which I have out now, and I'll be doing more premium in the future. I'm almost positive of that, unless something goes horribly wrong. $10 a month, you get access to all of that stuff. You can be $25 a month. You can be a Giga Chat, or I'll add you to a group chat. And then we have our legacy system as well, going from bronze all the way up to gold. You can pay up to $250 a month if you are an exceptionally wealthy individual. All exceptionally wealthy individuals, make your way to the legacy gold package, $250 a month of Red Top Report. You have no idea how much that could help me with this show and help Charlie out with this show as well. We are in it. We are in it, people. And we're never going to stop fighting for the faith. We're never going to stop trying to eradicate the falsehoods of other religions and bring everybody under the social kingship of Christ. And with that said, guys, let me tell you right now, I'm going to see you guys next time on Red Top Report. God bless you.